Eala Mania takes over Wimbledon after her historic win over Iga Swiatek. Wimbledon has seen legends become famous in a single afternoon. It has seen unknown players walk onto the grass and leave with the entire tennis world saying their names. But during the summer of 2026, something unusual began happening around Eala. The attention did not begin with a trophy. It did not begin because she had already become a Grand Slam champion. Eala had not yet won a main WTA Tour singles title. She was still developing, still learning, still trying to turn major victories into consistent results. And yet, when she stepped onto center court, the crowd reacted as if they already understood that something important was happening. Philippine flags appeared across the stands. Supporters rose when she saved difficult points. Every comeback created another wave of noise. Every emotional reaction spread across social media. Then the official highlights of her victory over Iga Swiatek reached around 1.2 million views. The video attracted more than twice the attention of several clips featuring some of the most famous names in tennis. That was the moment the scale of the story became impossible to ignore. This was not a sold-out ticket story. Wimbledon tickets are not sold by individual player. This was not a story about Serena Williams sitting speechless in the stands. There is no reliable evidence that moment happened. The real story was stronger. Eala had become one of the most watched and emotionally supported players at Wimbledon before winning a main tour title. How did that happen? How did a 21-year-old from the Philippines create an audience powerful enough to transform the atmosphere of center court? And why did so many people become invested in her journey before the biggest trophies arrived? The answer begins long before Wimbledon. It begins with a player who spent years carrying a dream that was much larger than her ranking. Eala did not come from a country with a long history of producing elite singles players. The Philippines had passionate sports fans. It had champions in other disciplines. But professional tennis remained difficult to access. The cost was high. The travel was demanding. The pathway from local courts to Grand Slam stadiums was narrow. For a young Filipina, reaching the top levels of the sport required more than talent. It required leaving home, adapting to unfamiliar environments, training against stronger players, accepting years of uncertainty. Eala began that journey at a young age. She developed in Spain at the Rafa Nadal Academy. The academy did not guarantee that she would become a champion. No training environment can promise that, but it gave her structure, discipline, professional preparation, daily exposure to the demands of elite tennis. Those years helped build the habits that later became visible during the hardest matches of her career. The wider tennis audience first saw a major sign of what she could become at the US Open in 2022. Eala won the junior singles title in New York. That victory made her the first player representing the Philippines to win a junior Grand Slam singles championship. It was a historic moment, but junior success does not guarantee professional success. The next level is faster, more physical, more tactical. Every opponent studies weaknesses. Every week brings a new surface, a new country, and a new kind of pressure. Eala spent the next seasons moving through that transition. She played smaller events. She collected ranking points. She experienced weeks when everything worked. She also endured losses far from the largest cameras. Most casual fans did not see that work. They saw the breakthrough when it finally arrived. Miami, 2025. Eala entered the tournament as a wild card ranked number 140 in the world. She was outside the top 100. She was not expected to reach the closing stages of one of the most important tournaments in the United States. The draw contained Grand Slam champions, established stars and athletes with far more experience. Eala began defeating them. First came Jelena Ostapenko, a Grand Slam champion with the power to overwhelm almost anyone when her attacking game was working. Eala survived that test. Then came Madison Keys, another major champion, an American star, one of the most dangerous hard-court players in the sport. Eala defeated her too. Paula Badosa withdrew before their scheduled match. That sent Eala into the quarterfinals. Then she faced Iga Swiatek. Swiatek was the world number 2, a multiple Grand Slam champion, a player known for controlling rallies, applying pressure, and punishing hesitation. Eala defeated her in straight sets. That victory transformed the conversation. Before Miami, Eala was respected inside tennis. After Miami, millions of people wanted to know what would happen next. She had defeated 3 Grand Slam champions during one tournament run. She had beaten 2 top 10 players in the same week. She had reached the semifinals as a wild card, ranked outside the top 100. The result was historic, but the emotional impact came from something deeper. Eala did not appear overwhelmed by the names across the net. She competed with belief. She redirected power. She moved opponents into uncomfortable positions. She played important points with the freedom of someone who did not accept the expected result. For Filipino supporters, Miami felt like confirmation. The dream was no longer only about future potential. Eala had defeated some of the best players in the world. On American soil, in front of a global audience. That is when the support around her began growing rapidly. Philippine flags appeared more often at tournaments. Social media accounts followed every result. Fans adjusted schedules across different time zones just to watch her matches. The audience did not only celebrate victories, it became emotionally attached to the entire journey. That attachment was tested almost immediately. The clay season did not follow the same pattern as Miami. Eala produced good tennis in some matches. She defeated Victoria Tomova in Madrid. She created competitive moments against strong opponents. But she struggled to maintain the same level throughout the entire swing. Clay demanded patience. It gave defenders more time. It forced Eala to build points with greater precision. The surface exposed areas that were still developing. Her serve could come under pressure. Her aggression could become rushed. Longer rallies sometimes pushed her away from the patterns that made her dangerous on faster courts. At Roland Garros, Eala lost the opening set against Emiliana Arango without winning a game. She responded by taking the second set 6-2. Then she lost the deciding set. The match showed both sides of her development. She had the courage to react. She did not yet have the consistency to finish. That stretch created questions. Was Miami the beginning of a lasting rise? Or had Eala produced one extraordinary week that would be difficult to repeat? Those questions were fair. Professional tennis is filled with players who create one major upset and then struggle to reproduce it. A breakthrough creates attention. Consistency determines whether that attention remains. But the idea that Eala could succeed only on hard courts did not survive for long. During the grass season of 2025, she reached the final at Eastbourne. That result mattered. Grass requires fast reactions, confident movement, strong returns, the ability to take control before a rally becomes long. Eala showed that her game could adapt. Then came another historic moment at the US Open. Eala faced Clara Tauson, the number 14 seed. She won the opening set. Tauson took the second. Then Eala fell behind 1-5 in the deciding set. The match appeared almost finished. Eala refused to disappear. She fought back. She forced a final set tiebreak. Then she completed the victory. The junior champion from 2022 had returned to New York and become the first Filipina woman to win a singles match in the main draw of a Grand Slam. That result strengthened the connection between Eala and her supporters. Miami was no longer standing alone. The pattern was growing. She could defeat elite opponents. She could survive intense pressure. She could produce history on more than one stage. By the beginning of the grass season in 2026, Eala was no longer arriving as a complete unknown. She had already reached the Eastbourne final. She had already defeated Grand Slam champions. She had already won a main draw match at the US Open. Then she added another title. Eala won the WTA 125 event in Birmingham. It was not a main WTA Tour singles title, but it was an important professional championship. It proved she could complete a week on grass and leave with the trophy. Then came Berlin. Eala defeated Elena Rybakina, a Wimbledon champion, one of the most powerful players in the sport. She also defeated Elina Svitolina, another elite opponent with experience on the largest stages. Eala reached the semifinals. By the time Wimbledon began, grass was no longer a mystery. It had become one of the surfaces where her game looked increasingly dangerous. That context matters. The victory that followed did not appear from nothing. It was built through Eastbourne, Birmingham, Berlin. Weeks of matches that allowed Eala to understand her movement, timing, and aggression on grass. Then the draw brought her back to Iga Swiatek. The story from Miami returned. But the circumstances were completely different. Swiatek was the defending Wimbledon champion. She was the number 3 seed. She knew what Eala could do. There was no surprise advantage. There was no reason to underestimate the opponent. Eala entered as the number 29 seed. She had a growing reputation. She had a nation. She had to perform while carrying expectation instead of freedom. The first set became an 84-minute battle. Neither player could escape. Eala faced 2 set points. One mistake could have ended the opening set and changed the entire direction of the match. She saved both. The tiebreak continued. The pressure increased. The crowd became louder with every point. Eala remained composed. She won the set. During one memorable rally, she slipped and fell on the grass. Her body stretched across the court. She still reached the ball and kept the rally alive. Swiatek eventually won that point, but the image became one of the defining pictures of the Eala run. It showed effort without calculation, instinct without hesitation, a player refusing to stop competing even after losing her balance. Eala took control in the second set. She completed a 7-6, 6-2 victory. Swiatek was out. The defending champion had been defeated. Eala had beaten her for the second time on a different surface. That changed everything. One victory can be described as a perfect day. Two victories against the same champion begin to create a pattern. Miami proved Eala could shock Swiatek. Wimbledon proved she could do it again when Swiatek knew the threat was coming. More importantly, the victory sent Eala into the second week of a Grand Slam. No singles player representing the Philippines had achieved that before. The meaning reached far beyond the score. For fans in the Philippines, the match became a shared national moment. For Filipino communities around the world, it became another reason to believe that Eala belonged on the largest stages. For young players, it became proof that the pathway did not have to begin in a traditional tennis nation. The emotional reaction around Wimbledon grew immediately. The official highlight video attracted around 1.2 million views. It outperformed several videos involving some of the most famous players in the tournament. That number mattered because it measured more than curiosity. People were searching for Eala. They wanted to watch the match again. They wanted to understand how the upset happened. They wanted to see the emotion. They wanted to become part of the story. That is what Eala Mania actually looked like. Not an invented, sold-out claim. Not a fictional reaction from Serena Williams. Real attention, real views, real flags in the stands, real support inside center court, real emotion from people watching thousands of miles away. The next match brought another challenge. Eala faced Jasmine Paolini, a proven Grand Slam finalist, an experienced player with the movement, variety, and patience to make every rally uncomfortable. Eala fought. The crowd remained behind her. The support did not disappear when the score became difficult. That was one of the most revealing parts of the tournament. Fans were no longer following Eala only because she had defeated Swiatek. They were connected to her as a player. They stayed invested even when she was losing. Paolini eventually won. Eala left Wimbledon in the fourth round. The trophy was gone. The historic run was over. But the attention remained. That is when the difference between temporary hype and real connection becomes visible. Temporary hype disappears with defeat. Real support survives it. The center court crowd continued applauding Eala. The Philippine flags remained visible. The highlights continued spreading. The conversation moved from what she had done toward what she might do next. Tennis legends also recognized the achievement. Maria Sharapova praised Eala publicly and called her a star. Billie Jean King highlighted the inspiration Eala offered to children in the Philippines and around the world. Those reactions did not guarantee future titles. They did not make Eala unbeatable, but they reflected something already happening. Eala was becoming important beyond her ranking. She was bringing new viewers into tennis. She was creating visibility for a country and a region rarely placed at the center of the sport. She was building a relationship with supporters before becoming a finished player. That may be the most powerful part of the entire story. Most players receive this level of attention after winning major trophies. Eala received it while still working toward them. That creates opportunity. It also creates pressure. People now expect deep tournament runs. They expect victories over elite opponents. They expect the emotional version of Eala from Miami and Wimbledon to appear every week. Professional tennis does not work that way. The season is long. Surfaces change. Bodies become tired. Confidence rises and falls. A player can defeat a defending champion and lose early at the next event. That does not erase the breakthrough. It shows how difficult consistency really is. Eala still has areas to improve. Her serve must become more reliable under pressure. She must protect second serve points against aggressive returners. She must learn how to begin matches with the same freedom she often finds during comebacks. She must balance aggression with patience. She must manage a demanding schedule while carrying the attention of millions of people. Those challenges are real. So is the progress. Eala entered Miami at number 140. She later moved into the top 50. Then, the top 30. She collected victories over Grand Slam champions. She won at WTA 125 level. She reached the second week of Wimbledon. She improved her career record against top 10 opponents to 7 wins and 4 losses. Those are not promises. They are results. That is why the attention around her feels different from ordinary hype. The audience is responding to evidence. Not evidence that Eala will definitely become number one. Not evidence that she will certainly win a Grand Slam. Evidence that she can compete with the elite. Evidence that she can make history. Evidence that the ceiling remains far above where she stands today. The next stage of the journey will take her back toward the United States. The hard court season will bring new opponents and new expectations. The U.S. Open waits at the end of that road. New York already has history with Eala. She won the junior title there in 2022. She produced a dramatic main draw victory there in 2025. Her next return could bring the largest level of attention she has ever carried into the tournament. Will the support from Wimbledon follow her? Almost certainly. Will that support produce a deep run? Nobody knows. That uncertainty is what makes the story compelling. Eala Mania does not mean every match will sell out. It does not mean every legend is watching in silence. It does not mean a trophy is guaranteed. It means people care. They care enough to search for highlights, to carry flags into stadiums, to wake up across different time zones, to celebrate victories, to remain after defeats, to believe that they may be watching the beginning of something larger. Alex Eala left Wimbledon without the championship, but she left with proof that her story had reached a new level. The world was no longer watching only because she came from the Philippines. It was watching because she had become dangerous, because she had defeated champions, because she competed with visible emotion, because every match carried the possibility of another historic moment. That is the real reason Wimbledon fell in love with Alex Eala. Not because she had already finished the journey, because millions of people wanted to see where it would go. Subscribe and follow the next chapter. Because Eala Mania is not built on one imaginary reaction. It is built on something far more powerful. A real player, a real journey, and a story that is still becoming bigger.